welcome. From New York, we are here live. I'm actually at the Nuyorican Poets Cafe. It's been such a long time since I've performed in here because of the pandemic. I started the Beatnix series in September of 2019, and I curate and host. And the pandemic brought that and everything else to a halt. But before it did, I was able to invite so many amazing artists, musicians, poets, writers, comedians, activists in the beatnik tradition, and Latinx artists in the beatnik tradition. That's why I called it Beatniks, because it's the beatnik tradition, Latinx artists. But to me, Latinx also extends, beyond the Latino diaspora. I like the X to stand for what Malcolm X had the X stand for, for our unknown roots, the roots that we were stripped from. So it encompasses our African American, our African diaspora, and our Boricua diaspora, and our Latinos. So thank you so much for being with us here tonight. Like I said, I'm at the Nuyorican Poets Cafe, and this here is the bar. And here it's Pedro Pietri Way, because the Nuyorican Poets Cafe, the street on which it's located, on 3rd Street between Avenue B and C, is named after one of our founding fathers, Pedro Pietri. And this right here, this seat, I don't know if you could see it, but this is where Miguel Algarin would always sit, at the edge of the bar, to watch everybody performing on that stage. And I miss those times very much. But we keep it alive. We keep holding the torch for our culture, for our people, for the things that we believe in. I would like to dedicate this night to a dear friend of mine that passed away, Jose Fofito Morales Perez. This night is dedicated to his spirit. So I want to show El Indio aquí. A lot of people put offerings to our Indian here. And so I just wanted to give you just a little bit of a taste of the Nuyorican Poets Cafe, where I started my career back in 1996. And still here, and proud to do it. Tonight, we have Tezozomoc, Antonio Fornaris, and Elisabet Velasquez. Unfortunately, Suni Reyes could not join us. She had a family emergency, so let's all just send some positive energy her way so that everything can turn out well for her. We definitely miss her. I was so looking forward to her comedic stylings because she's just so brilliant. But when family and duty calls, eso siempre se tiene que prioritize. I'm gonna open up the night with a little poem from my book, The Poetician. I am gonna be releasing the audiobook version on September 11th because it's WTC 20 years later. So that is my goal. Wish me luck on that. But this poem right here is called El Botellón. Había una vieja con piel de canela buscando agua para cocinar su miel de abeja, curandera, con remedios que le enseñó la abuela para mandar lo malo para fuera, fuera, fuera. Con su fuego y candela limpiando toda la tierra, con agua y leña lo que practica nos enseña, salvando la selva y los ríos de pureza. Después de esta siesta empezamos la fiesta, celebrando la vieja buena que guarda fronteras, ayudando familias enteras. Ella nos empreña, aliviando las penas con su magia en su botella. El botellón. Some good positive energy, curanderismo para mi gente, because we all need it. Woo! Don't we? Thank you. Oh, my sorority sister is in the room, Betty Diaz. Hello, Carmen. Jane, spoken word. Hello, Poetaku from Japan. Iris Morales, Raquel. Hey, Ed Poetastic. And La Tormenta, Ashley Villanueva is in the room. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You can chat it up. Yep, I see you. I see you. Thank you again so much for joining us. You know, one of the things that I love about the Nuyorican Poets Cafe has been the open mics. I started on an open mic on April 3rd, 1996, and then went on to host countless open mics, not just here at the Poets Cafe, but geez, so many different places, from El Barrio and the Point in Hunts Point. But I love the open mic because you get to find amazing talent. You never know what you're gonna get. And our first performer is actually, he's a newbie to the Beatnix room and scene. And I discovered him, we all discovered him in our open mic all the way from California. We call him El Profesor. We also make jokes because he gives a Tez talk. We always learn something, like our brain gets expanded. I always say apple for teacher. Tezozomoc does not play any games. Let me tell you more about his bio. Chicano poet, philosopher, and 2009 Oscar-nominated food sovereignty activist. Say that 3 times fast. He's been published in dozens of journals and anthologies. His poetry collection, Gashes, Poems and Pain from the Halls of Injustice, was published by Floricanto Press and can be found on latinobooks.net and amazon.com. He is going to share his amazing work with us. And before he does, let me give a shout out to the New York State Council on the Arts, because of their grant, we are able to do this night. So thank you. And now, Profesor, take it away.
All right, so you brought us to the border, and I'm gonna stay there for a couple of pieces. This piece is, I'm reminded of all the fiestas that we go to, and we always have that one DJ that's always like going on and on with this really bombastic voice. And I thought, wow, what if we politicize the DJs, the Latino DJs? What would they sound like? So this is what they would sound like in my imagination. La Frontera X, Border X. You're listening to La Frontera X Radio Chingado, where you have come to suffer el síndrome del inmigrante. I will tell you, it's not a corrido, it's not a pastorela, not teatro carpa, not even an NEA subsidized art project. No, it's pure suffering, cabrones. Aquí, you can't pretend to be Pedro Páramo. You have not come to Comala, no donkeys to get you across the border, the Tecate border. Welcome to Purgatory, sponsored by TLC. And it is not Tender Loving Care, pendejos, not even Turner Loves Chicanos. Our motto is, the border will run out before the festering desire to cross it. Call it what you will, La Frontera, La Cruzada, a 5K title, Run for the Border, El Paso Incognito, Radio Chingado on the air. We have a quebradita for you just east of the Otay Corral, brought to you by Los Broncos, Radio Chingado. With the weather for you pollos, the ground is full of brasas, but don't worry, it doesn't not make you a bracero. Today, for your listening pleasure, bolero, so you can play with your canicas till the night comes. This is Johnny Chingas on Radio Chingado. Grease up your feathers, pollitos. Today could be your lucky day. Today, the tortilla curtain becomes podrida. Never mind the thermal imaging technology, pollitos. Run across the bucolic sagebrush. Never mind the Pentagon hand-me-downs. We have pelado technology, pollo camouflage, the ability to pass 60% of the pollos. We have Mexicano stealth. All of a sudden, We're serving you a taco wango at the nearest run for the border. We are babysitting your kids, cleaning your gardens, and doing what your big ass won't do at Cipidos. If you have just joined us, I am Johnny Chingas, El Radio Chingado. If you did not make it across the Dead Man's Canyon, you will be gladly met by Operation Gatekeeper up somewhere in the big Mexicano sky, Inmigrante. If you just arrived, welcome to La Colonia Libertad. Admire the red-tailed hawk as it crosses the border without the need of papeles, the bottleneck dolphin laughing as it crosses the border to the amigo country. The dollar doesn't need a passport. The big companies don't need passports. Only you, pobre mexicanito. You're listening to Radio Chingado, the voice of the voiceless, where we tell you about those green chiles standing in the inside of the Estados Unidos podridos. Bienvenidos a Tijuana Nirvana, cabrones. That was that. Now I'm gonna stay on the border, but this is titled El Hotel Imperial, the Imperial Hotel. When my father left us behind, my mother found herself in tough spots, having to support and raise 4 kids with insatiable needs. The remittances that my father would send were few and not enough money to cover living expenses. My grandmother, Josefina, my mother's mother, or Doña Chepa, as they called her in town, and not for her benevolence. She was not very supportive that her eldest son had married a woman like my mother from the surrounding countryside. Chepa did everything possible to make my mother's life miserable. She refused to support her grandchildren, even in the dire situations that they found themselves. My grandfather had migrated north with the Bracero program to earn money, and now I believe to get away from her malignant narcissism. He worked in the grape fields of Delano, California, picking and packing. He had sent enough remittances to purchase a sizable land base in a place called Oliveras, olive groves, to pasture several hundred heads of cattle, which was the wealth base my grandmother exploited and postured. At times, my father would leave my mother there with 3 kids, no food, no firewood, only the dashing tilcuate, the indigo drymarcons, and the pack-up coyotes at night. While he would be in town drinking with his friends, something my mother began to resent and loathe. My father had tried his hand at several jobs, but lacking discipline, he was pulled north, al norte, by my grandfather and his younger brothers, Donato, Benjamin, and Rito, who had already made their way north to the fields of the California Central Valley. My mother once again found herself in dire straits. She herself had tried several odd jobs till she ended up being a waitress at the Imperial restaurant. The owners were very supportive of her and us, the kids. She was making enough money to keep us alive with her wages and tips. There was never a shortage of food at the end of the day when we would show up to help clean and feast on the leftovers. The hotel was located at what today is 88 Mexico Sur, with a cross street of Monterrey Oriente, Unión de Tula, Jalisco, Mexico, in the Sierra de Amula, famed for being conquered by Francisco Cortés of San Buenaventura in 1524, before it was populated by indigenous tribes, setting its final name at the hands of the settlers of the Plan de Iguala and their initials and the initials of their founders, Topete, Villaseñor, Lascano, and Arriola for Tula. The corner was a very loud jukebox, Rocola, loaded with the latest and popular songs. It strobe lights that it automatically loaded 45s and played them. This was the first time I'd heard Úrsula Hilaria Celia de la Caridad Cruz Alonso, AKA Celia Cruz. I was blown away with the brass section blaring from the wall and very different than the cheddar music around me. When The walls seemed to shake with the trumpets and the timbales, shook all the dishes at people's tables. From then on, I always loved Celia, bought her records and CD, and always had her music at our parties. Later, I found out how she was prevented from going home, how she had to live in Mexico and then migrate like my family to New Jersey while we ended up in LA. I felt a great affinity for her story. When her father, Simon Cruz, passed, she couldn't go. When her mother, Catalina Alonso Ramos, passed, she could not go home. My relatives had similar stories. They nostalgized returning home, visiting their left behind loved ones. But it was in America that I discovered that Celia was Black before she was a beautiful morena, cumbera, rumbera, y salsera. But it was in America that I learned that I was a wetback, a beaner, a dirty brown Mexican. In America, I learned to hate Black, white, yellow, red, Asian, even to hate myself. The children of the rumba, the cumbia, and the salsa have nursed me back from my death. Reggaeton, bachata, samba, techno, cumbia, and raperos have made me love myself and restore love for others. When Celia passed back in 2002, I still remember the strobe lights, the wall of trumpets, and the timbales. It could commiserate with the nostalgia of not being able to go home. When they entombed her at the Bronx Woodland Cemetery, she was buried with Cuban soil that she had saved from a visit to Guantanamo Bay. La rumba me está llamando, bombo. Dile que ya voy, que se espere un momentito, mientras canto un guaguanco. Dile que no es desprecio, pues vive en mi corazón, mi vida, tan solo eso, rumba buena y guaguanco. And I'm gonna close it out with a kicking and punching. Aztlan to Tenochtitlan. Aztlan is our mythical origin place for many of the Mesoamerican people. There is a place called Chicomostoc in Zacatecas, and then it's also thought to be somewhere in the four corners of the US. Desde Aztlan hasta Tenochtitlan, we have cried many trails of tears, de aquí o de allá, tú también llorarás. Hemos cogido nuestros sueños y fantasías. We have vomited ill-digested dogma, tus unmanifested destinos. We have had deceptions from both sides of the border. Amor al estilo S&M. Tú con tu látigo torturing my testículos y yo arañando your back like a good esclavo. De aquí o de allá, no vale madre if you swallow or not, as long as you don't inhale. Oh, madre mía, nos haces llorar, haciéndonos bilingual, bicultural, bye Mexicano, bye Chicano. As the border splits us like diamonds on the jeweler's block, filo de hilo te rompo como trompo, twirling away from each other. Ay, carnal migratorio, carnala prostituta, desde Aztlan hasta Tenochtitlan hemos llorado. Lloramos por el abandono nonato, la tierra mojada, tortugas acuáticas, besos mojados. Sí, mojados como nosotros, mojados. Desde Aztlan hasta Tenochtitlan, we have cried many excuses. The only things that remain are undocumented, like us. See, you and I have had undocumented thoughts, undocumented frijoles del farón, undocumented orgasms en esquinas oscuras. Y tú, Jaina, dediándote con mis pensamientos. Yes, the best of us remains undocumented. Desde Aztlan hasta Tenochtitlan, we have had undocumented love. In between bouts of tears, undocumented mecos. Fuck you if you don't like it, con zafos.
Tezozomoc, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, that was so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. You want to
Thank
plug
you.
anything before we go on?
Well, you already did an awesome job. I want to thank you for the invitation, and I look forward to sharing the platform with these excellent poets coming forward.
Thank you, Tezozomoc. And that was the Tez talk of the evening. Yo, so fascinating, so amazing. I've gotten to witness Tezozomoc throughout this pandemic online, and I'm so glad to be able to bring him onto this Beatnix platform so that you can witness him too. I'm gonna share another little poem since I said WTC is about to turn 20 years. That was my first acronym poem, but I mean, I love acronym poetry. And so I followed it with this acronym poem, which I then turned into a song, and it's on my For Which It Stands album. And you could hear that on iTunes and Spotify. But the actual lyric goes like this. SPIC, SPIC. It don't mean the same thing to me. SPIC, SPIC. I define my dictionary. SPIC, SPIC. Ten mucho cuidado como llamarme a mí. SPIC, SPIC. Que con mi ESP, I see what I see. Spanish people in crisis. Speak politely, I'm crazy. Spain probably isn't caring. Statehood probably isn't coming. Separated people inevitably crumble. Start participating in culture. Strong pro-independence community. Society prefers indifference collectively. Speaking powerfully involves commitment. Similar patterns in chimps. Slander purposely impairs confidence, surviving people's insensitive comments. Socio-political insanity continues. Speaking purposefully is constitutional. Still placed in cadenas, sees Puerto Ricans in chancletas. Spiritualists praying ignite candles. Some propaganda is comedy. Stop praising ignorant celebrities. Sharing perspectives is cleansing. Solidarity provides immense connection. Stepping past indignant critics, selling poison in clinics, staying poised inside conflict. Slavery practiced in Caribbean, Spaniards pummeled indigenous caciques. Seeing persecution is crushing, shoe points impale cockroaches. Soy perfecta inventando caridades. Stop parades, including Columbus. Seeking past inner conquistador. Speak poetry in code. Some poetry is censored. Sexy. SPIC. I love me some acronyms. But now we are going to go all the way to Puerto Rico. I got to meet this next performer in a studio. We were filming for the Puerto Rican Day Parade. We had a beautiful poetry segment that you can find on my YouTube page, La Bruja, Caridad de la Luz on YouTube. And he was the poet reciting legendary quotes of our poetic ancestors. And Antonio Fornaris is a voiceover artist. He's a studio engineer, an innate poet, winner of several literary contests in his college years. He ventured into the Puerto Rican urban music scene in the late 1990s. You and me both. He actively provided creative writing workshops in communities, schools, colleges, and universities, which led him to receive the Medal of Civism for his community work by the University of the Sacred Heart. It is my honor to present to you Antonio Fornaris.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Un placer estar aquí. Para mí el Nuyorican Poets nunca he tenido el privilegio de pisarlo físicamente, y desde que comencé que me descubrí dentro de la poesía. Para mí siempre los Nuyorican poets siempre han sido un norte para mí. So estar aquí, aunque sea virtualmente, es un honor, un privilegio, y de verdad que muchas gracias. Fina línea. Todo cuelga de una fina línea. El mundo cuelga de una fina línea, y con las estrellas. Tu vida cuelga de una fina línea, y Dios la sostiene. Todo está separado por una fina línea. El bien y el mal, y yo en el medio. El cielo y la tierra, y nosotros la fina línea. Tú y yo, y me atrevo a cruzarla. El pasado y futuro, y el presente los divide. Esta semana ha sido un poquito pesada. Han habido muchas noticias malas en todas partes. El lunes precisamente perdimos una persona muy valiosa en Puerto Rico, el señor Fofito. Le quiero dedicar este poema que se titula Quiero volar. Es un oldie but goodie. Llegar a alturas inimaginables, profundidades más allá de mi espíritu, sentirme al borde de un abismo, decirle adiós al miedo, solo saltar, quiero volar, puedo volar, adiós, obsérvame, admírame, asimílame, siénteme, contémplame, medítame, tan solo hazlo y descúbreme, imagíname, acaricia mi desnudez, prueba, palpa y tacta cada rincón de mi ser, antes y después, eternamente, indefinidamente, infinitamente, seré uno, seré único, seré universo, seremos un misterio. Ni siquiera andrógino lo entendería por ser tan vanidoso y sufrir de vértigo. El aliento no me basta para las ideas que me sobran. El concreto es escaso para el eterno abstracto. Antimateria, mi espíritu va más allá de tu periferia. Mi energía radia tridimensionalmente más allá del plano cartesiano, más allá de los puntos cardinales, evoluciona, reacciona, interactúa, viaja a través de canales sensoriales, magnéticos, astrálicos, cómicos, cósmicos, y se une a la naturaleza, atravesando todo lo creado y no creado, y vuelve a mí en una sola pieza amorfa, viajando más rápido que la mente, va más rápido que la luz, va más rápido que la vida, tan rápida que la luz pasa a través del frente de Pitágoras 2 veces y a la tercera lo inspira, a la cuarta Eudoxo define un rectángulo dorado, pero la rotación y traslación es tan potente que le pone por nombre círculo. Átomos como la sangre que recorre mi físico, como el todo, soy todo, pero nada, soy 1, soy 2, soy 3, soy 4, soy 5, soy 6. Al llegar a 7 muestro mi realidad, identidad, mi realidad prima, mi habilidad codiciada. Puedo volar, puedo volar, puedo volar a alturas tan altas como la velocidad más rápida que la luz es la velocidad de la vida. Soy luz, radiación, energía, soy el origen de la vida. Puedo volar tan alto que la luz se queda atrás y me transformo en oscuridad, tan alto que es profundo y me convierto en pasado porque ya estuve allí. Inconscientemente omnisciente, puedo volar, pero no puedo aterrizar. Ya no sé si es tarde o temprano, caos u orden, perfección o imperfección. No sé si es el efecto del tiempo causando espacio o viceversa, al punto que dudo de mi capacidad de volar. Le llamo pensar y todo vuelve a comenzar. Volar. Este siguiente poema es de una serie nueva de poemas que estoy escribiendo sobre Puerto Rico, creando imágenes. De esas imágenes que uno recibe, por ejemplo, cuando va a visitar la isla, estás caminando por las calles del viejo San Juan, de momento cae una lluviecita y uno ve esos adoquines mojados. Pues este es uno de esos poemas que me llevan a lugares por los que uno ha tenido la oportunidad de pisar allá en la isla. El poema se titula Flor de higuera. Te vi caer desde el otoño y levantarte en primavera, renacer de aquel retoño oculto en la flor de higuera. Era medianoche de junio, San Juan, sonámbulo y vacío. Rondaba el sagaz infortunio como espectro solaz y baldío. Con el pecho todo hecho flor, cayó una luna en su frente, se dio su promesa al candor y la luz brotó de su vientre. Que el verano se haga en ti como idilio de sol y lluvia, que tu deseo se haga en mí con toda su calma y furia. Gracias. Para mí la poesía siempre ha sido un vehículo, una herramienta valiosa. Este poema es uno de mis poemas favoritos, porque trata de una de las cosas de las cuales no podemos vivir sin ella, nuestra madre tierra. Y ahora mismo la madre tierra está gritando. Este poema se titula Fenómeno. El primer poeta es Dios y su palabra, acción, respiración, precipitación, respiración. Yo nací con el sol y me acosté con la luna, como el primer poeta llamó conceptos a existencia. Dijo que hubiera luz y ahí estaba mi presencia, ahí estaba mi esencia condensada, porque este poema lo escribí en una nube a punto de llover. Caí sobre la tierra en estado de trance cuando aún era larva y vivía en los mangles. Nací de la curiosidad y creatividad y le pregunté a mi madre, ¿quién te fecundó? Ella contestó con una sonrisa soleada y ojos cristalinos como ríos de agua clara. De su boca brotó una flor y perfumes de primavera con aromas a poma rosa. Yo le entendí como entiendo el huracán, el eclipse, el trueno y el volcán. Yo la entendí como entiendo la vida, con amor y humildad, y la respeto como el mar. Pero no pudo aguantar las ganas de llorar. Era de madrugada y le puso por nombre Rocío. Le dio de beber a las orugas y aves tempranas. Le canté a la aurora en mi primera mañana, porque el aire era limpio y la neblina rejuvenecía mi cara. Todo era bueno. Me subí a un árbol y me sentí como en casa, protegido, mimado, cuidado. Sus ramas me abrazaban, sus hojas me acariciaban, sus frutos me alimentaban. Mi paisaje poseía una lógica armoniosa, me sentía completo. Estaba a proporción con los mares, las montañas y los valles. Los ríos no tenían principio ni fin. En ese tiempo no existía ese concepto de fin, final. Nosotros a todo le ponemos final, a las historias más bellas, a los poemas más románticos y pensamientos más profundos. Le ponemos final a lo que nunca lo tuvo, a la vida. Mis sueños risueños terminaron. Mis sueños risueños terminaron y se tornaron en pesadilla. Por las noches me desvelo porque escucho bebés llorando. Mami, por favor, déjame nacer. Si María no hubiese tenido a su hijo, tú no tendrías fe. Mi día comienza con taladros, marronazos, bocinas, motores, robos, corrupción, asesinatos y de postre adelantos tecnológicos. En la calle me cuesta trabajo respirar porque está envenenado el aire. Bienvenidos al progreso del retroceso, donde todo es perfecto. Edificios protuberantes, carros elegantes, hombres y mujeres bien alimentados del tamaño de elefantes. Celebremos la civilización porque todos estamos en control. Si hoy me invitan a verlo todo objetivamente y lograra hacerlo, diría que pensar se ha convertido en la peor enfermedad. He caminado y he visto poco cuando poco es relativo. He visto un mundo redondo por televisión. He visto cómo Puerto Rico parece una loseta desde el espacio. He visto la máquina del tiempo y el tiempo de las máquinas. He visto ángeles caídos como árboles caídos. He visto muertos vivientes rondando las calles. He visto montañas desaparecer, ríos desvanecer y criaturas perecer. He visto espíritus atormentados sin descanso. He visto a tus abuelos sin un techo para vivir. He visto bebés dormir sin poder soñar. He visto a un pueblo entero luchar por la libertad. He visto helechos crecer en la chatarra. He visto niños trabajar como hombres. He visto estrellas fugaces y deseos incumplidos. He visto comida en la basura. He visto las estrellas desde una casa sin techo. He visto boricuas en la luna. He visto mi gente pidiendo en la calle. He visto flores en las grietas de la acera. He visto cómo el vicio te mata el espíritu. He visto cómo crucifican a Cristo todos los días. He visto mi reflejo. He visto al diablo en la esquina. He visto a la ciudad a través de las ventanas de la guagua. He visto los más bellos gestos de agradecimiento. He visto a la lechuza girar su cabeza 360 grados. He visto la violencia de la calle. He visto mi nevera vacía. He visto el efecto de la gravedad. He visto la extrema pobreza en otros países. He visto el vapor subir y la lluvia bajar. He visto la opulencia en la mirada maliciosa de mi prójimo. He visto demasiado cemento. He visto el clima alterado y la tierra desorbitada. He visto a mis panas con la mirada perdida. He visto viejitos recogiendo latas en la calle. He visto muchos actos de heroísmo. He visto el universo en un grano de arena. He visto la inocencia en la mirada de un niño. He visto nieve. He visto la estatua, pero nunca la libertad. He visto un día después de otro. He visto la luz al final del túnel, pero no lo suficiente. He visto extraterrestres terrestres. He visto de lo que es capaz la raza humana. He visto el ruido. He visto criaturas con luz propia. He visto la grandeza en la sencillez. He visto a Dios en todas las obras de la creación. He visto la selva llorar. He visto la naturaleza ultrajada y nosotros que no hacemos nada. He visto cuando soy ciego. ¿Y tú? ¿Qué has visto? Calla, que Dios no ha pronunciado la última palabra. Fenómeno. Este próximo poema trata sobre un objeto inanimado que todos tenemos en nuestros closets. Adivinen qué puede ser. Se titula Confiable Garabato. ¿Cuántos cuentos cuentas? ¿Cuántos histéricos esqueletos y otros histéricos parapetos cuentan tus colgantes brazos secretos? Negros, grises, mustios, lúgubres, corvos, garfios, suspendidos en la silente soledad de una línea temporal. Si mis ajuares me distinguen, ahorcas mi personalidad, burlas la gravedad y conoces la verdad. ¿Quién iba a pensar que tan geométrico garabato pudiera sostener el peso de mis caprichos? Tras aquella puerta rechinante, sé que esperas mi próximo cambio. Confiable garabato. Para el que no sepa, es un gancho de ropa. Es sobre un gancho de ropa. La poesía tiene esa magia alquímica. Somos alquimistas, los poetas somos alquimistas. Este siguiente poema es uno de esos poemas que nacieron en la pandemia. Se titula 108. Se acostó de lado para ver el mundo derecho. Aquella luz no brillaba, gritaba, cantaba los nombres todos y cada uno, como se cuenta un rosario, como se cuenta un secreto, como se cuenta un amigo. Una a una la cuenta regresaba a cero, se escurría entre sus dedos como si su vida dependiera de afirmar lo indefinible, domar lo imperceptible, replicar lo incongruente, llenar el vacío con el vacío y hacerse toda con la nada. Su mantra se hacía respiración, su latido se hacía canción, Aquella línea unidimensional se hizo círculo en la segunda y en la tercera dimensión renació en espiral, floreció. No había universo que la contuviera, ni ojos que la cegaran, sin regalar un solo paso. Se hizo la paz, se hizo camino. 108. No sé si estoy bien de tiempo todavía. Am I good? Este siguiente poema es un poema que cumple ahora mismo 20 años este año. Se titula ¿Quién mató a Pedro Albizu Campos? Mientras Domingo Quiñones se pregunta quién mató a Héctor Lavoe, yo me pregunto, Albizu, ¿quién lo mató? Mientras los celulares bajan de precio y reducen su tamaño, nuestras mentes también. Todo este ruido afecta a mis oídos y nubla mis sentidos. Todos los radares que sobrevuelan nuestros hogares, grabando el sonido de mis cuerdas vocales, me funden las neuronas y mis ondas cerebrales. Todas estas antenas retransmisoras alimentan mi cáncer y nos cocinan como en un microondas. Mi vida pesa más que 10 elefantes en una cuerda floja, 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 floja. Floja es la mente de aquel que no la valora, aquel que su patria no adora. Léanse la Biblia, el Corán, el Talmud y el Torah y díganme ahora por qué el que no nada se ahoga. Ahora es muy tarde y tarde ya es pasado porque el futuro ya es presente. Soy un ente físico, espiritual y mental, creado a imagen y semejanza de la Santísima Trinidad. Y ustedes se preguntan en todo esto dónde Albizu está. Nace en Ponce y muere en San Juan. De la misma manera los ríos desembocan al mar. Al mar se embarcó, llegó a Vermont y luego a Harvard. Allí enriqueció su mente en la ciudad de Esmeralda. Descubrió las técnicas fraudulentas del mago de Oz. Castigaba, azotaba y latigaba a todos con su voz. Jamás subestimen el poder del pitirre. Desde Utuado a Aguirre, todo Guaraguao tiene su pitirre. La nación es la patria organizada para el rescate de su soberanía. Toda esta sabiduría se aprende de día y se usa de noche, porque de noche salen los murciélagos que no ven, son ciegos, tienen la realidad de frente pero no la palpan. De noche soy como el búho, mi visión es panorámica, 360 grados en un ciclo infinito y eterno como el espíritu. Mi imperfección sobrepasa toda perfección relativa al ser. Ser o no ser no es ninguna pregunta, pues si lo es no sería la respuesta a los misterios del ser. Si no me entiendes lo digo al derecho o al revés. 1 más 2 es igual a 3 y 5 multiplicado por la raíz de 4 entre 2 menos 7 como quieres 3. No te pierdas en el World Wide Web. www es igual a 666. La bestia nos bombardea sin cesar, contamina nuestro aire y no nos deja respirar. Como Albizu vivo preso entre las líneas del papel. La musa me libera, pero quiero tocar el cielo como Babel. Así construyo mi ciudad de Babilonia o la gran manzana. Se está pudriendo en el medio, tiene una larva. Hacen falta los cadetes de la República y las hijas de la libertad. Los sueños de Albizu en un buque de guerra se nos van. Y yo me pregunto, ¿quién lo mató? No fueron los gringos, no fue la radiación ni los químicos. Entonces, ¿quién lo mató? Como todo Cristo fue crucificado y por nosotros traicionado, todos los días se nos muere a manos de su propia gente y la patria se desvanece. En la Universidad del Olvido fui sentenciado a 3 juicios y a un yonkel mental. Los salones de clase me recuerdan el manglar. Un ecosistema crece en las paredes de aquella universidad. Dejen de mirar y aprendan a observar. Dejen de oír, empiecen a escuchar. Mi misión es educar y abrirle la mente a la humanidad. Albizu está donde tu abuela está. ¿Y tu abuela dónde está? Fácil de encontrar, pero difícil de hallar. Mi voz y mi mente viajan a una alta velocidad, más rápida que la luz. Es la velocidad de la vida que a través de mi poesía rompe los esquemas de la metafísica, filosofía y antropología. Para sobrevivir en la calle hay que estudiar zoología y hacer un minor en psicología. Todo este ritual se llevará a cabo en un templo que yo le llamo cerebro, que se unió al corazón y dio a luz al alma, que mientras predico denota mi aura, mantengo la calma y trasciendo el karma. Mi cuerpo astral se escapa, mi viaje espiritual no acaba, se abre una ventana y escucho una voz que me llama, me despierto en un campo santo, firmo sello y culmino este pacto místico, mítico, misterioso y abstracto. me encuentro conversando con el gran Pedro Albizu Campos. Gracias.
¡Bravo! Antonio Fornaris desde Puerto Rico. Y que viva Albizu Campos y nuestra isla bella. I'm going to touch the stage for you, because if you were here, this is what you would do.
I would love to.
Here we go. This is where you would be, right here, touching on the stage. Mira. Para ti,
Amazing.
Antonio.
Ay, gracias, gracias, gracias.
Yes.
Muy agradecido de estar aquí. Que tengan una linda noche, muchas bendiciones y mucha salud para todos ustedes y todas sus familias. Gracias.
Gracias a ti. Qué honor. Bellísimo, bellísimo, Antonio. And this is the stairs that goes down to the basement. I'll show you a little bit of that too before we get to our final feature. Right, you go down. I love, there's a photo here of Pedro Pietri. And yeah, when we're in the basement, it's like there's a show going on and we come up from behind, come up these stairs and then out into the room. And then the balcony is up there. It's just a lovely place. It may not look like this for long. These brick walls, they hold secrets and tales. And there was one time that we did an event celebrating Tato Laviera, who was a master, bilingual master. And I took a photo of him and all these orbs showed up in the photo, like if he was surrounded by all the spirits that have ever walked in here. So I love this place. And, you know, we do create magic. We are alchemists. And when we walk into these walls and into this door right here, we all wonder, you know, about if we'll make it, how we'll make it. Mira, hasta la alfombra, ¿dónde está? Hasta la alfombra, dice Nuyorican Poets Cafe. Right? But our final feature is one of our Beatnix alumni, the only one of tonight's performers that was actually here live for one of the Beatnix performances. And wow, I feel like I've seen you I blow up, you know, and you're so inspiring. Let me tell you a little bit more. A powerful spoken word artist, a Boricua writer, born in Bushwick, Brooklyn. Her work has been featured in Muzzle Magazine, Winter Tangerine, Latina Magazine, We Are Me Too, Tidal, and more. Her debut novel, When We Make It, will be coming to the shelves on September 21st, and it has been selected as an Indie Next selection. All the hype is real, my people. All the hype is real. I know some people were I don't know if it's fangirling, fanning hard. Ray did this, is in the room. Ray Camacho losing his mind over you. Edith Morales is losing her mind. James Birkenware, everybody loves you. Elisabet Velasquez.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh my God, I love you so much, Bruja. Te quiero. I adore you. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you to the poets who are here, because we're all poets, even if you touch the stage or you didn't, we're all poets in our own right. We're all alchemists, right? Como dijo Antonio. And qué profecía today that we heard. I heard like los poetas son profetas. Wow, that was a lot of that was a tongue twister. So thank you so much. I'm gonna get right into the poems. I wrote a book. I never thought I'd be able to write a book, but I always wanted to write a book. So if you're thinking about it, keep thinking about it, because realities start in the imagination, right? Everything that is around you was imagined first and didn't exist at first, and now it exists. So keep going, keep imagining, keep hoping, keep being an alchemist. So shout out to that metaphor. So this is the book called When We Make It. When We Make It is backwards, but y'all get it. And with this book, I really wanted to interrogate what kind of lives we believe or we were told that we need to live before we can make it, right? Before we can say we've made it. And so the book follows a family, 2 sisters living in Bushwick, Brooklyn in the 90s. A lot of Puerto Ricans migrated to New York City with the Great Migration, and a lot of us ended up in Bushwick in Brooklyn. And so the story follows a young girl who's a young diasporican and is trying to figure out how she's gonna make it, what's gonna happen. So I'm gonna read some of that poem. So this is called The Neighborhood is Changing. Someone is always fighting in Bushwick. I don't remember the last time I walked down the street and someone wasn't angry at something. El señor who sells the gallon jugs of Mavi leans over and inspects the wheels of his cart while muttering curse words directly at the spokes. It may seem silly to be so angry at the wheels, but I get it. It's necessary for everything to work smoothly when you're walking down a Bushwick sidewalk. These streets are not for standing still. That's why Mommy yells at us to hurry up as we roll our own cart, filled with compra from Scaturro, the fancy supermarket we shop at when Mommy gets paid from her job at the factory. Mommy says, if you're gonna be a target, you should be a moving one. El señor and his carrito, however, are not really concerned about being a target. He's been selling Mavi in Bushwick for years. Mavi is how he pays his rent, and he makes a killing because you can't find Mavi in the supermarkets. Mommy always stops and buys a jug for her and a cup for me. It's all the old man has, she says. I'm not used to Mommy being so kind, so I side-eye the drink and wait for her to look away to dump it in the sewer drain. The new people on the block who look too young and too white to be his customers are angry too. I want to laugh and say, welcome to Bushwick, but they'll know I don't mean that shit. They're so tight that in their rush to nowhere, they've almost tripped over the crazy old man yelling at his wheels. He's far from crazy though. Since they just moved here, I know things they don't know, like how his anger doesn't come from the fear of dying from standing still. It comes from the fear of not being able to move enough to live. Story time with Señor Mavi. Señor Mavi has all the stories. Yo, he was around back when Broadway got burnt to the ground. ¿Tú sabías eso? He says, 1977. Señor Mavi talks slow and raspy. His voice is so hypnotizing, it can almost carry you directly into the flashback. The 1977 blackout had everybody wilding out in Broadway. Se llevaron todo. Furnitura, televisiones. Señor Mavi said he even copped himself a new mattress. People took what they needed, and they needed everything. Señor Mavi said in his time, people really struggled. No como hoy en día. Not like now. We don't know shit about struggle. Señor Mavi sounds like he's asking himself a question. Los muchachos de hoy en día. And then he answers it. No saben ni un carajo de lo que es sufrir. I want to ask Señor Mavi about his struggle. I want to ask him about how he got here, but instead I ask him for permission. Can I be Puerto Rican? Can I be Puerto Rican? If I was born in Brooklyn, if I've never been to Puerto Rico, if I mix my English with my Spanish, if I cop quenepas from the Chino spot, if I don't know the Boricua national anthem, if I can't name our national heroes, can I be Puerto Rican? If the closest I've come to the beach is La Pompa, if I can't dance salsa, if all I got is a feeling, can I be Puerto Rican if all I got is a feeling? If being Boricua in Bushwick is a feeling, yo, it's the best kind. It's throwing your body in front of La Pompa when the block is on fire. It's searching La Basura can for an empty Goya can to stab into a sprinkler system. If being Boricua in Bushwick is a feeling, it's chasing el piragüero to cop a cherry icy for you and a yellow de crema for mommy. It's buying Trapper Keepers from the 99-cent store on Graham Ave, Myrtle Ave, and Knickerbocker Ave. It's shopping on any Ave except Fifth Ave, unless Fifth is hosting the Puerto Rican Day Parade. And then you buy flags of Papito's Carrito and plaster everything you own in it. It's the smell of arroz con gandules y una chuleta bien asazonada seasoning the whole way to el apartamento. It's talking to God. It's talking about God. It's the best bochinche ever. It's música del diablo blasting out of Honda Civics. It's música de Jesucristo blasting out of Pentecostal churches. It's buying pollo from el vivero instead of el supermercado. A reminder that something always has to die for you to survive. Being Boricua is not just a feeling. Señor Mavi is offended that I would even say that. ¿Qué feeling ni feeling? You Boricua or you not? When he is talking English, Señor Mavi's accent leaves out certain letters and emphasizes others. Some people will argue that he's saying it wrong, but I like to think he's making a choice on how much English gets to live on his tongue at a time. What makes somebody Boricua? I ask a question and pose a challenge. Primero, tenemos que bregar con la historia. I think Señor Mavi means that being Puerto Rican concerns a history I don't know and one I must learn. This is my last poem. If being Boricua in Bushwick is a feeling, yo, it's the worst kind. Not worse like we wish we were anybody else. Worse like we know we're not supposed to be us. Worse like I can't believe mommy traded in a singing coquille for a roaring M-train lullaby. Worse like we gotta wait online for everything, especially our humanity. Worse like everybody in our hood is Puerto Rican, but ain't no Puerto Ricans in our history books. Worse like is history trying to tell us that we don't have stories worth telling, or that, worse like is history trying to tell us that we don't have stories, or that we don't have stories worth telling. Worse like we belong to a missing people or something. Worse like I know my people not missing because we find them every day. Worse like if I was to go missing, would someone try and find me? Worse like damn, I hope I never go missing. Worse like what if I'm missing right now? Thank you so much.
Encore, encore. We want more, one more. Come on. Yeah.
2 minutes, Bruja.
More.
Oh, man.
Please.
Okay. We will do this one about the first time Sarai lands in Rafael Hernandez Airport, which is an airport in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. Okay, this is the first time, this was inspired by the first time that I got on a plane to Puerto Rico. And so it's called Rafael Hernandez Airport. The first time I went to Puerto Rico was to Aguadilla, where my family is from. Rafael Hernandez Airport. When the plane wheels hit the ground, everybody claps like they do during worship. And I guess it makes sense to praise the landing. Each passenger putting their faith in the pilot and the flight attendants. And for 3 hours and 45 minutes, we are the closest to heaven we will ever be. Oh, how dope to be a part of a glorious congregation in the sky, a rapture of Boricuas rising like we always knew we deserved to, like stars. Like angels. Like chosen ones, celebrating this going home, this second coming. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Tremendous. Round of applause. I would like to maybe unmute everybody so everybody could show yourselves and give applause to our amazing performers. Are you ready, people?
Boricua.
Besos, besos, besos y abrazos.
So amazing.
Esa.
Qué noche más bonita. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. I mean, I've been feeling, you know, a little bit down, not a little bit, a lot down because of the loss of our friend Forfito. He founded La Respuesta en Santurce and was, you know, made La Marqueta here in 116th, just a hub of culture. And he was my dear friend. And I was living in Puerto Rico for 5 months during the pandemic. And he was really the only person other than Lady Lee Andrews from the Poet's Passage to help me. And I'm just gonna miss him dearly. So this night is dedicated to him, and I'm having a deja vu, which is so trippy. But I am so grateful that we had this evening together. Love hard as much as you can, because it's just the most important thing we can do. And I love all of you, and I'm so grateful. Again, I want to thank the New York State Council on the Arts for making this evening possible. The Beatnix series will continue. It'll be the first Wednesday of every month. So tune in the first Wednesday of October. Join us and tell your friends and support our artists. Make sure you buy Elisabet's book. And like I said, just love. It's the most beautiful thing we can do. Buenas noches desde Nuyorican Poets Café, con mucho amor, ahora y siempre.